Bring you some news on NIKOLA, which we are seeing spike in pre-market trade, up by about 10% right now. This just crossing. NIKOLA and GM have signed a memorandum of understanding. This supersedes that agreement that was announced back in September, in which GM would receive a $2 billion equity stake for contributing its battery technology and manufacturing the Badger pickup truck for NIKOLA. We don't know the terms of this deal, but a deal was signed, and that is important for shares of NIKOLA. There was a lot of concern that they wouldn't get that deal done. And this, of course, the timing is interesting. It comes on the day of the lockup expiration. JP Morgan estimates that as many as 161 million shares could be available to be sold today on the day of the lockup expiration. So this one is one to watch. But we are seeing right now NIKOLA shares up by 8% on this news, Joe. We told you NIKOLA signed an agreement with GM. We're learning more now. GM will no longer take that $2 billion equity stake in NIKOLA. This deal no longer includes the Badger pickup truck. Phil LeBeau joins us on the Squawk Newsline. So what does it include, Phil?
Well, it calls for a memorandum of understanding, which means they're going to work together with General Motors providing the Hydrotech technology for hydrogen fuel cell semi-trucks that NIKOLA is developing and hopes to have testing by the end of next year, and then in a beta form a little bit after that, and then potentially also some of the Ultium battery technology could be used for battery electric semi-trucks NIKOLA is designing for the future as well. You notice the shares of NIKOLA, they're down more than 6%. This deal was always far more important to NIKOLA than it was to General Motors. And you can tell by this agreement being reached with GM, while it doesn't take an equity stake in NIKOLA, it basically gets out of this agreement that really was not going to work out very well for them by basically saying, look, we'll provide the technology for you. Here's a customer who can help us get scale for our Hydrotech technology. But beyond that, NIKOLA is going back to the drawing board in terms of what it's planning to do. It's going to be focusing now on the hydrogen fuel cell semis and the battery electric semis. And those were always the most important vehicles. The electric pickup truck, the Badger, that was the vision of Trevor Milton. And that was something that was never high on the priority list with General Motors. I think they looked at it and they said, sure, we'll get some scale here for building this potentially. The fact that that's going away, not a huge surprise here, but you look at shares of NIKOLA down more than 6% now that they have essentially come up with a new agreement with General Motors.
So, Phil, just to underscore this, the Badger is dead?
The Badger is dead, and it's not a surprise, Melissa.
Yeah.
They have not talked about the Badger here for several weeks. Once Trevor Milton was out, you knew that the Badger Electric was not going to be around much longer.
Right, and you mentioned GM and what it meant for NIKOLA versus GM. It could have been, though, it could have been sort of a black eye for Mary Barra, though, correct? I mean, if they had gone through with
Absolutely.
Right? Them coming
Absolutely.
out of this is maybe not a surprise. I'm surprised that they even have some sort of agreement still.
Well, I think they look at this and say, hey, here's a customer for our hydrogen fuel cell technology. We're happy to work with them. And who knows, maybe NIKOLA's hydrogen fuel cell semis take off. I mean, we're a ways from finding out if that's the case. They're just going into testing. They'll be testing them by the end of next year. That market is still developing. Someday you could look back on this and you could say, hey, this hydrogen fuel cell semi from NIKOLA is a big hit. Or you could look back on it and say, well, that was an interesting idea and it never really panned out.
Jim Cramer joins us now to talk all about it. What do you do? What do you do with a NIKOLA? What do you do even with a GM?
Well, look, I think that there's a lockup expiration. The numbers that they're selling are much fewer than they could. And a lot of that, I mean, Trevor Milton's not going to sell nearly as much as I thought. But what I kind of felt from that interview, there was just such resistance to even talking about the idea that there could be something good going on. Now, this is a deal that, frankly, is not significant. And I know that people don't want to hear that. There's a lot of people in NIKOLA hoping that this is the big score. It's just not the big score, Andrew. It's not like Mary Barra said, you know what, I really like this technology very much. And I think some of that is because the company has not particularly been the kind of company that GM wants to ally with. How about that? I think that's fair. Perhaps many people think it was ill-advised if they went with NIKOLA full bore. So they have this deal, and the deal's kind of an asterisk deal. I don't think Mary Barra wanted to be able to say, hey, listen, I'm Nikola's best partner, because Nikola's not going to be anybody's best partner. They haven't delivered the way that people thought. And you want to hear that they kicked out Milton, but that has not happened. Instead, you heard kind of what I would describe as being a not clear approach to who is still at that company. I want to hear how much Trevor's selling, and then we'll be able to make a better determination. But to me, it's not a buy.